Hi class! So in this video I want to go over how to make yourself a little cutting mat. Now this mat is made out of a piece of very thick, dense cardboard. You don't want to use corrugated cardboard. I mean, you certainly can, but it doesn't work very well. It's very bumpy. It's not a very nice surface to cut on. I think you'll enjoy having something more dense like this. Sometimes this is called box board, and it's very similar to the back of a sketch pad. Often you can get this on a sketch pad. I can't remember where I got this square piece of dense cardboard, but I think it was in some kind of packaging, and when I saw it I thought, aha! I know I'll be able to use this for class, which is why I have so much stuff. So you see on my green mat that you're going to see me working on quite a bit. My green mat is a cutting mat, and something this size. This is quite large. This is, I think, 36 by 24. This is 36 by 18. And this kind of mat costs about $25 to $50. I asked for this one for Christmas and was very excited because there's no way I like to spend that much money on a cutting mat. But it's great to cut on. You'll see me using it for almost all of our demos. But I want to make sure that you have a mat that you can cut on that also has these little measurements on it. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to measure out a little grid on your mat. Okay, so let's pretend that the grid was never there. And I have a 1/2 inch grid on my green mat, and I'm going to measure. Onto my mat. Let's see. I'm going to really zoom in here because sometimes people have trouble measuring. If you have been measuring since you were a little kid like me, I used to play with rulers when I was a little kid. Very strange thing to play with, but they really, now I know how to use a ruler. So on a ruler, we've got centimeters on one side and metrics on one side, and we've got inches on the other side. I tend to use the inch side, and my mat is 1/2 inch increments. My green mat is. So I'm going to do 1/2 inch increments on this, and with inches you can break them up into halves, quarters, 18ths, 30seconds, all these different measurements, but I'm just going to go for 1/2 inches. So somewhere near the top, I'm going to start wherever 0 is, okay? Wherever 0 is. It's not always at the edge of the ruler, okay? 0 starts there with this ruler. And I'm going to make little precise lines right at every 1/2 inch going along the whole ruler. And let's go out wide so that you can see me go along. Let's see, a little bit more. There we go. So, and if you just take your time and be exact, then you won't have to go back and correct yourself. This is a nice way to kind of focus. And you see how at this end it didn't go all the way to the end. So it is, let's zoom in on here. See, there's a little bit. It's 11 and a little bit more. 11.5 and a little bit more. So that is why when I do my measurements down here, I want to measure from the same side, because otherwise, if I measure from this side, where I've got my little itty bitty, like 32nd of a space, or a whatever it is, if I started there, they'd be all slanted. So I want to start from the same side. So every 1/2 inch, just hold your ruler. And if you're exact, you won't have to go back and correct yourself. And you'll know if you were on the money if you get to the bottom and you've got that same little bit. Okay, so now I'm going to line up my ruler and hold my ruler securely, and then a nice even line, even and easy line going down. Okay, so the reason I made a mark up here and a mark down here is so that all of these lines will be parallel to the edge of the page. If I don't do that, and I don't have like a T-square or something like that, then things get really complicated. So I'll go all the way down. And if you don't want to watch me go all the way, then feel free to skim ahead. It's funny because sometimes people, they want to rush. They don't want to take their time, but if you rush, it can get even more frustrating and it takes you even more time. But you also don't want to spend like 2 hours on every line. So it's a happy medium. I say to my students over and over and over again, you aim for precision, but that doesn't mean that you get to precision every time, okay? Aim for precision and continually forgive yourself for not getting there. Okay, so I've got these lines, okay? And then, so now I measured across this way. Now to get the grid, I'm going to measure across this way. So, same process. Every 1/2 inch, I'm just going to make a little mark. If you make a tiny mark, that's more precise than a big, huge mark. But sometimes I get a little wild and I make these big, huge marks and then I don't know which side of the mark is exact. I have a lot of students who really resist making the reference point on one side and then the reference point on the other side. But if you don't do that, I mean, if you have a green mat underneath you, then you could get those measurements absolutely perfectly. But if you don't have that green mat, then, and you're just making one reference point, then all of your lines come out really slanted and you do not get this lovely grid. It will be very satisfying. Okay, so the other ones I was, something's fallen. The other ones that I drew, I had the ruler going this way, but I'm just gonna go have my ruler up and down this time. So I have my, just line up my ruler and make that nice easy line. Sometimes people put one pencil on one mark and then just pivot their ruler. That's a great thing to do. Works very well. So put my pencil there. I pivot till it lines up with the other mark. And then you just continue all the way down until you have a grid. And then essentially you will have the same thing as this green mat that I have. And then when you cut, for instance, I've got this box here. When I cut, I can line up this box so that it is on the, let's see. What am I doing? What am I doing? Okay. Okay, I lined it up so that this edge is on a line, and that means that if I line this ruler up with a line, then I can cut down with my knife wait till I cut through. There we go. And it's essentially the same as my as using my green mat. But you didn't have to pay an arm and a leg for it. There we go. Okay, now you've got your own cutting mat. And if you're careful, you won't cut through it. If you're not careful, you'll cut right through it onto the table. Okay, thanks for joining me.